Thanks for hanging out with us today. We are going to talk about a topic, double-edged sword. And what we mean by that is walking through the relationship from dating to our current state and just talking about the differences between when we started, how engaged we were in the relationship, and then where we are in our marriage. And because we did all those things that you traditionally do when you start a relationship, spending time, giving all the attention, buying gifts, and all that, we proved that we have the ability to do that for a consistent amount of time. But as we go through our marriage, sometimes it drops off. So thank you for if you're a first time listener, we appreciate that. And if you've been rocking with us for a while, we appreciate you listening. But
But hey, real quick, before we get into the episode, we want to invite you to converse with us over on our social media, which would be Searching Marriage is Tougher on Instagram, Facebook, and also marriageistoffer.com. On the website, you can request to be a guest on the show, give us any topic ideas, and find our entire list of previous episodes. If you want to continue the conversation about this episode, always do that on Instagram or Facebook. And just, let us know what you're thinking. As always, please rate and review the podcast because it goes a long way in helping us reach more ears and also lets us know exactly what it is that you guys like about the show. So let's get into this episode. Double-edged sword. My first thought on this is I used to be better.
Yes. Yes, it is.
But then like as I'm conversing with myself in my head, my argument immediately goes to like, bro, I'm an adult now. And all the things that come with that are now in the way. So, am I just making excuses or is there validity to that statement?
Well, let's talk about what you feel you used to be better at, and then talk about the current state, and then we can say is it valid or not.
I got you.
Does that sound a
All
little
right.
better?
Yeah, definitely. Kind of ease into this.
Yeah.
First thing for me that jumps out is spending time, right? When we were dating, I would drop just about anything to go spend time with her, right? Like for the things we want to do, we make time for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was my life, right? Like I'd go to her, she'd come to me, right? I forgot about friends.
Listen, my roommates were like, "Are you alive?" Because we don't see you anymore.
Yeah, get
So
used to it.
yeah, no,
you
I
know?
get it. Yeah, spending time is one of the big things. Making time was the big things. I was thinking about this the other day because I always switch up my like workout routine or workout schedule or what I'm doing, and I just kind of varies throughout my life. And I was thinking about my best time and best shape as an adult. And it was like, okay,
Mm.
I would go home after work because I would be up late hanging out with Crystal. So I wouldn't work out in the morning. And like after work, as soon as I would come home, I would, run or do whatever, cook a quick meal, some chicken breast, some veggies, and some rice. And I'd, shower, get dressed, go straight over there. Um,
Right.
and it just had me thinking about that space of like, how much, you know, how much I would be like, boom, how soon can I get to her, right? To
Yeah.
hang
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, time is a big thing.
Yeah. And I feel like as much as we moved around in order to be able to do that, there were a lot less things in the way. Or is
I th-
that just in my head?
well, I mean, I guess this is where we can talk. Maybe we can talk about the topic or what we're experiencing before, and then current, and then talk about the validity of that argument,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think we did have more time before, but it's also because knowing our lives, we had less going on
Mhm.
individually, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, we both only had one job. We hadn't started businesses yet,
Yeah.
um, which is a whole another gamut of things. So that off the top, it's not an excuse. It might be a reason, but circling that back might be a valid reason, but that also means we have to be more intentional.
Yes. I'm also thinking now, like we live together. um, and so like there's this sort of lexicon from having to make time to be together to now it's just automatic that we're going to be together because
Hmm.
we live in the same place. So this is where we're going to meet,
Right.
right? But like you said, that time was so intentionally spent because you knew it was going away, right? Like I at some point got to go back to my place or whatever the case may be. Um, and then to now, it's just like you're always here.
Yeah.
Don't take me the wrong way.
No. No, it's a comfort level that you don't have to be as intentional because you're waking up right next to her, going to bed right next to her. You're gonna see her
Yeah,
sometime during the day. Before it was like, like when I'm away, it's not guaranteed that I'll see her as much as I want, right?
right.
But now it's like just roll over and look. Like, hey.
Yeah. Oh
So,
man. But is there I guess I want to talk more about the intentionality of it,
mhm.
right? Like how do we need to be more intentional about spending that time or uh exerting effort into that so it maybe feels similar to that excitement of you know this I only have so much time, right?
Yeah. Man, I think it is starting your day thinking about how you're going to spend time, right? Because as we were talking, I was thinking about that, right? Like when I woke up and like got ready or whatever, then it'd be like, okay, am I going to see Crystal today? What am I going to do when I see her? What time am I going to see her? I'm texting her, whatever, like, when are you free? Like all those things. So it's not anything I just do now. It's more like I know I'll end up seeing her at the end of the day type thing. But
Yeah.
there was intentionality, like it was on the forefront of my thoughts. And now it's kind of like, because it's been so long, it's just kind of assumed. But I think it's more
Yeah.
so being intentional when I wake up, after you do whatever, and be like, okay, when are we going to see each other? When are we going to have time? And even if it is like after the kids get to bed, or, you know, after this meeting or whatever, it's still thinking about it and making a mental note. And even if it involves, like, if you have different schedules, like texting, like, hey, like, when, just like you would do when you weren't living together, or early, like, okay, what are we doing today, or what do you have going on, or whatever. I know for us, or once you have kids, it can be more like what's going on with the kids type of text. But if
Certainly.
we shift it to, when am I going to get time with you, even if you live in
Yeah.
the house, even if it's just a show, what show are we going to watch today, you know
Man, that's powerful.
something like that, just to make it intentional, like, you know
I'm just
those
thinking
things.
about how my wife might react to me saying that. Like, when are we gonna get some us time? Right. And then you get to make a plan for it, And then I think you hit the nail on the head as well. Um, when you said, "Hey, am I going to get to see you?" Right? Like, part of that excitement is the possibility that she might be like, "Well, not for a couple days." You know what I mean? So,
Right.
like, you kind of
Like
hanging in
what?
limbo there until you,
Yeah.
yeah, like, did you just tell me no?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's good. I like that. Um, I mean, we spent a lot of time on that, but where else do you find focusing is I don't know, a good idea?
um as far as uh
Like other
kind of
areas where
areas
we
that we
we need to
could,
be
yeah.
better. Yeah.
um for me it is because that's more of the time, right? We call
Yeah.
that time. um I think for me it's, and we're getting a little bit better, it's more dating spaces.
Mm,
Because before it'd be like we would go to a movie. I know it's post pandemic, so it's like sliding back into, or post height of the pandemic, so sliding back into like going out and stuff. Um, but yeah, taking time to be out of the house but be present with each other
mm,
is something that it ebbs and flows, but I can always be better at. But it needs to be intentional. Like again, actually putting it on the calendar. You know, me being the one to schedule the babysitter, or where Bella's going to be, um, what days, what time of day can we do something midday that maybe during the week we get lunch if our schedules work, or is it weekend evening, someone comes to the house or we drop Bella somewhere else, that type of thing. But even
yeah.
just those thoughts, and I know that's changed from when we first started, because Isaiah was 10, so he was like, you know and in our first couple years it was really us doing a lot of family stuff because of that, just cultivating our family unit. And then once he was in like middle school, it was like, oh, he can stay by himself, so you know we can just
Yeah.
slide away. um so yeah, I think that one is for me. The next one,
Gotcha.
I'd say, I don't know how you guys probably rock
No.
it.
We're always saying that we don't get enough alone time, like dating, right? So as you were talking, I was thinking to myself, what ways can we be better at that? And um, our, as you know, anniversary was just yesterday, and we tried a new restaurant and had a gift card for this restaurant because we had gone to a benefit for our local library, and there was like this auction style thing. Won a gift card, cool. And I was just thinking to myself, like, what if I was intentional about spending the money in advance, right? So what if I started looking for new restaurants we haven't tried, and like just said, hey babe, I'm gonna go buy a gift card for this place, $100, right? Because we're gonna spend the money anyway if we go out to eat. But there's something about a gift card and spending that money on it in advance that's like, you got this $100 for this one place that you can only use it at. Like it almost forces you into making those plans, right? So
That's
I
good.
kind yeah, I kind of like that idea. And I don't know how your wife is, but when we have $100 gift card for someplace, she's like, "Yeah, let's go, like make this happen."
Listen, I think it, to my wife it's either way, but it's, for me it's a little better personally. Like, okay,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
I,
yeah.
because it's already budgeted, it can't be spent elsewhere, and it's like intentional, like we now have to go out to spend it. It's
Right.
just not like, oh, we can order or we can go somewhere else, and it forces us, just like you said, to go somewhere new, which is, that's now a new experience in your marriage. Even
Mm-hmm.
if you've gone before singly, like if you went for a work function or you stopped in, but like going together is a new experience. So you have something to talk about. Um, I was thinking about doing that with, now that you mentioned it, um, my wife used to work downtown. So she's been to a lot of like the downtown restaurants for meetings and stuff. And she
Okay.
always talks about them. And there's like little pockets of the city that, we have like German Village and like, so they have like a lot of German inspired restaurants and type of stuff. Um, so getting some gift cards to those places that she always talks about, that, but I've never been to, um, would be, I think, would be helpful to get us there instead of being, oh, where do you
Right.
want to go? I don't know, blah blah blah. That whole thing. Like, oh, got this gift
Oh
card,
man.
and then
Yeah.
boom, or we have these 3 gift cards. Where do you want to go? And it can be the level of, how class, for the lack of better word. Like, are we just gonna go to like this cafe, or are we gonna go to like regular restaurant, or are we gonna go, high end, gotta dress up, jacket type thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that way you can feel how we feel as a couple in that moment. What do we want to do?
Yeah. Man, that's good. I think the pre-planning for this could be really fun as well, right? Like, let's we're just sitting on the couch. Let's, Google shop for gift cards. Like, where are
Mm-hmm.
the places that we want to go, right? And then even if it's a little tough for you to get out right now, commit the money and buy 3 gift cards over the course of a month or 2 months or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
right? However you want to budget it. And then, on the back end, like you said, like how much more quickly can you decide where to go? And even that could be part of the fun, right? Like just kind of like a deck of playing cards, like here, can't see it, just pick one, and then that's where
Yeah,
we're going,
yeah,
right?
that would be awesome. Yeah, it's all about, that's the fun of it, and I really like that idea.
Me too.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Glad I thought of that. Um, so you mentioned also love languages earlier in the
Hmm.
in pre-recording. Um, and we're gonna have a conversation about this, but the first thing when you mentioned that to me that came to mind was, do we really know what they are then, like when we're dating, compared to how we should know them when we're married?
Mm, that's a good question.
Or are we just kind of like doing all the things and hoping something hits?
Yeah, because when you're dating, you're figuring it out. I mean,
Hmm.
depending on how long you consider the dating phase, but I'm just thinking about the progression from first date all the way till current, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I was thinking more a little bit as like we've done the recon now, and once you know it, um, even if you didn't know it was quote unquote the love language, but you know how things affect her, right?
Right. Right.
Goodness, I can't talk. If it's when you give her a gift, she lights up in a certain way, or if you give her compliments, that helps, or whatever those things are, that are with, or if like when you guys are doing something together, she really likes that. So um, you are doing all the things when you first date to figure those out, but
Yeah.
you've kind of, once you're married, you've kind of had, even if you've only dated for a year, you still have a year's worth of recon to know kind of those things that you like. And she'll even tell you, like, my wife was like, I bought her shoes. They were boots. It was the first time I've ever really bought someone something like that were that
Okay.
expensive. And it was the first time she was like, this is the first time anyone's ever bought me, like any boyfriend or anything has bought me a gift. And I
Huh.
was like, that doesn't make sense. But
Cap.
right, right. But it was. And yeah, so that was a thing. I mean, she does like giving gifts,
Mhm.
but it is also nice to receive. But I am now realizing that I don't really generally buy her stuff, and that's bad because I talk myself out of like, because she's a verbal processor. So like I don't want to go through the process if I fail, but that's a me issue. And,
I get
and I'm realizing
you.
that. And I need to talk to my counselor about that. So
Yeah, buddy.
that's a me issue, and that's holding me back from like really being able to shower her with how I feel. Like I have no problem
Mhm.
getting her flowers, but she loves. But when it
Right.
comes to like clothes, I think she would really like that. And she's verbalized that. I have, years of recon that just said she would want me to buy her clothes because she always
Yeah.
comments how other husbands buy stuff or other couples buy stuff for each other. And I'm like, but I want you to really like it, and I'll probably be disappointed
Yeah.
if you don't. And again, that's a me issue, not a her issue. But
Yeah.
I don't know how I got that on love languages, but
I think there might be a different way to exercise that, right? Rather than like going just to go buy the clothes and hope that it works out. Like take her shopping, right? Like say, hey, I set this money aside for us, and I'm with you for X amount of time for you to go and try it on, and you can have her, go in the dressing room, come out, try,
yeah,
how it goes. But um, I think maybe that's a good way to execute that.
yeah, I'll take that.
Like
We
that.
have started to try
Because
that, but we've gone to places and short staff in the retail world, so not every place has a dressing room. But that is
yeah,
part of the fun. Like she'll come home and she'll go in the bathroom and come out and do that. So yeah, it just got to be more intentional. I like that.
yeah, I like that actually quite a bit because that's what Katie did when we went to that gala. She bought two dresses and was all excited to show me, tried them on, walked down the stairs and everything. And funny part about it was the first dress she put on, I think she knew that was the one I was going to pick. So I hadn't seen either of them. Like they were still wrapped in the plastic and everything
Hmm.
when she first bought them. But she put the first one on, comes down. I'm like, that's the one. She was like, you didn't even see that. I was like, don't care. That's the one. Oh
That's
man,
awesome.
it was great. Love that dress.
Yeah, I think finding pockets um, when we're talking about love languages and recon, like data that we have for our wives, like finding those pockets of fun and how can we do them out and how can we do them at home? Like if we can't get out, right? So that's a
Yeah,
perfect thing. I mean,
yeah,
you can order, a bunch of stuff, it'll come right to your door, and then just set aside time to kind of indulge in those things.
yeah.
So
That's good. And I guess we kind of covered gifts already, right?
yeah, yeah.
So let's wrap up
Talk.
with this last one.
Hmm. Wait, your last one's conversations.
Conversation. Yeah.
Right. Um,
Well, I
yeah.
laughed about this, previous to the recording because I can't imagine a time when we were dating where I struggled to converse with her. Right. It was it was a different time though, right? It was like trying to get to know you. So I had a bunch of questions and I feel like a lot of times it made it very easy just to ask a question and let her talk.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
So that's a piece of it. Um, and I'm trying to figure out like what's different now. And it's like we've spoken about a lot of times, is like the weight of the conversations has changed.
Hmm.
Right. There's so much more meaning behind our differences, right? Um, I'll say differences in opinion on certain topics,
Hmm.
right? Um, and like what that means if we can't reconcile those differences, for our
Right.
marriage. Um, there wasn't really a lot of that. When I feel like when we were dating, if we had differences, it was just like, oh, I like that about you.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because it doesn't necessarily affect me
I think
yet.
that's it. And those I think those conversations are exciting to like getting to know those things you don't know um about, and it's like overarching. So there's a lot more broad topics that we don't know about our spouse when we're dating. Um and you can shift like when you're dating, if it ever starts to get too deep, you can shift away to like another topic, right? Um, and that is kind of, I think, why those conversations in the dating world are easier for, I say, for me. um and there's also like a lot of like history behind things, so you're like, all right, tell me about
Mhm.
your family. So it's more, less feeling, more just like matter of fact, this is what happened, and kind of this is how I am now. But once you're married, it's more like you have that history already. So now it's more smaller things that, or more intense or more specified topics that, and
Yeah.
they may not be where you can skirt around. So, and you have history of um, how those uncomfortable conversations go, or history of how making your spouse upset in conversation goes. So there
Mm.
can be a little hesitancy. And I'm speaking for me, maybe not for everybody else, but those are some things like, okay, like, I know when this gets uncomfortable, I'm uncomfortable, she's uncomfortable. Kind of what can happen if we're both uncomfortable. Don't want to
Right.
go there today. But when you're dating, it's fresh, it's new, and most of the times our spouse will, they're in the same position, right? So they're like looking for the best out of us and
Yeah.
not like helping us get better yet. Does that make sense?
Oh
So
yeah.
once they're our spouse, they're like, oh no, you need to be better at this. So, as we're talking, no, you need to communicate this way. Let's follow up with this. And there's more like betterment of us as husbands, because that's what our wives want to do. And that's not strictly right there in the beginning.
Right. Yeah, man. I there was something you said that made me think that I'm losing it now. Whatever. It'll come back. um I don't know. I think it was a good point. Now I'm losing it. Hmm. Good thing we aren't live.
Right. I think it'll come. I want to wrap up with this point though, because we
Okay.
are kind of coming up in time. But as we were talking,
Oh,
uh, go.
I got it.
Perfect.
Sorry. So, um, i- in the conversation space, um, I feel like when we were dating, we almost poked at each other to try to make each other uncomfortable. Like
Hmm.
that's a thing, right? Just to see how people will react to different scenarios, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like real random stuff. I don't want to really say out loud right now, but I'm just saying, like, it's funny how it shifts from like that mentality, like I'll say something in public to make you uncomfortable,
Hmm.
right? And then like that's fun, and then now like that's not kosher. But maybe it is. It depends on your relationship, right?
Right.
But
Right.
um, I don't know. Matter of fact, I think maybe I just stopped doing it, and it would still be it would still be good, because then I would expect the same from her as well.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you should try it.
Yeah.
Let us know how it works out.
Yeah. I'm just slacking, trying
Might
to make
still be a
excuses.
thing, right? Um, yeah. I mean, as we wrap up, though, I mean, we were talking about our actions before, and those things, and even those things we said. Um, and you mentioned kind of a promise that we made by how
Mhm.
we were like when we were dating, um, that we kind of made a promise to be this person or show this amount of attention or whatever, all those things when you're like you said, trying to get the girl, to
Mm.
transitioning to, oh yeah, I got the girl. um, but it just hit me because it's like, even if we didn't verbally promise, I won't do all these things, we made a promise by our actions, like I can do and I will do, and you're worth all these things. And then we
Yeah.
stop doing them and we wonder why it's brought up like, oh, we used to do this. Oh, we used to do this. I really liked when we did this.
Yep.
But in essence, we made a contract without making a contract.
Yeah.
That this is
Yeah.
who I am and this is who I'll be to you. And um, you know, in my case, I haven't lived up to it all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, that's, like you're saying, that's where the double-edged sword idea comes into play. Is like we've by action proven that we're capable of these things, right? And then you can't turn around and say, like, well, now I can't do that anymore. Like, no, you've already shown me that you can. So where's that?
Right. Yeah, even if there's reasons, it just all of the reasons on this can be trumped by intentionality.
Mm.
And that's really a kick in the pants for me.
Same.
Because I need to be more intentional. Even starting the day with her, you know, top of mind, like get up, whatever your morning routine is, prayer, meditation, whatever, but inject her specifically into what does my day look like with her in mind. And I think that would start that you could see the transition of getting back to that good dating part of you.
Yeah. Man, you just gave me a really good idea. Like I get up earlier than she does for work. And there's often times where like before I leave, I want to, give her a kiss or whatever. But then I also don't want to interrupt her sleep.
Mhm.
Right. So that typically in my mind trumps everything and I just leave. But I feel like I might start praying alongside the bed before I go to work.
That's
Like
dope.
there's a ton of intentionality behind that, right?
Yeah.
I can pray for her, I can pray for our relationship, I can pray for the kids and start my day that way.
Yeah. That's dope.
I like that idea. Writing that down.
All right. Yeah, I mean, we can end on that. I think if you guys have any other tips or ways that we can be more intentional as husbands, make sure you drop it on our socials, or you can leave it at the bottom of our website, marriageistougher.com. And we'll get back to you. We'll discuss them here on the pod or in that whatever social media channel. But hit us up there for sure. And also, after you do that, like, rate, subscribe, all those things. And so we can just keep talking as a community and further this conversation.
There you go. And one last thing, if there are any ladies out there listening, if we're mansplaining too much or missing topics, I guess is really what I want to say. Make sure you're a part of the community as well, and give us some ideas. And even if we need to recover a topic, let us know. Like, hey, you missed this point, right? Like in my relationship, this might be a little bit different, or um, it would help us to have a little bit more of your perspective. So make sure you throw that in there. We're wanting to hear from everybody. But with that said, we'll talk to y'all next time.